Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. My name is Camilla Abildeen. Welcome to the seminar on International Women's Day. Today we will speak of the everyday issues that disempower women. International Women's Day is celebrated in many countries across the world to pay honor to the great women of the society. It is a day when women are recognized for their achievements without regard to divisions, whether national, ethnic, linguistic, cultural, economic, or political. Empowering women is very necessary for achieving gender equality. Those societies flourish well where women are given equal respect and are not taken for granted. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce our president, Ms. Shehnaz Wazir Ali, who has had a long career of 39 years with a commitment to education. She has held senior level positions in the government, both in the profit and the non-profit sector. She has served as the Minister of State for Education, Special Assistant to Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto Shahid, Senior Education Specialist at the World Bank, Principal of the American School Lahore, Chairperson HEC, and Trustee of Education Trust Nasra School. She has also been an elected member of the National Assembly for 2 terms. Ms. Shehnaz Wazir Ali holds a master's degree in education from the University of Arkansas, USA, and a principal certification from Harvard, Cambridge, USA. With such a robust academic background and valuable experience, we are proud to currently have her hold the reins at Zabist as the president of the institute. I would like to invite Ms. Shehnaz Wazir Ali to deliver the welcome address.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for that introduction. I would like, on behalf of the Chancellor and the senior management of the Zabist, to warmly welcome our speakers for today's panel. Ms. Nurul Huda Shah, who needs no real introduction at all, but when we request you to come on stage, I think our students will be told a little bit more about you. I also want to thank Dr. Ifat Ara for being here. And Ifat Ara is a researcher, social scientist, and she will be making a presentation. And we also have as a speaker today, Madam Nasreen Haq. And that is a special, I think, privilege for us because amongst the many things that Madam Nasreen Haq has done, she's been the senior secretary to the federal government. Would you like to come up, I think? The only woman who's been the chairperson of the Karachi Port Trust and also Secretary Railways and Secretary to the President. But a hat she also wears is as the chairperson of the Vilayat. Vilayat is the women's are we talking about logistics and transport? So I'm sure when she speaks, you'll realize the connection. And I want to thank in particular Dr. Kesar Bengali for organizing this and for giving us an opportunity to look at the role of women from a very different perspective. That is what is singularly different from this, in this Women's Day program, from all those that we have celebrated in the past. The title of today's program is not women's empowerment, but it is everyday issues that disempower women. Because I think it's really important to look at what challenges women face and what are the issues that almost every woman faces, which in fact reduces her empowerment and disempowers her. So while we've often talked about the rights of women, amazing struggle that women have undertaken globally, regionally, and in Pakistan. But it is also important to remember that in contemporary society in Pakistan, what is it that is limiting a woman? What is it that what challenges she faces in terms of her disempowerment? And I will not say more on that because I think today's topic is, as I said, quite unusual and quite different. And we hope that you will gain a lot from the speeches that are made here today. Dr. Kesar Bengali is our Dean, Management Sciences, and I want to thank him. I don't see him sitting in the front. Are you at the back, Kesar? There you are, okay. And he also heads the SDRC, which is the Sustainable Development Research Center, and Farooq, who is the research associate for that center, who has helped in putting all of this program together. I want to thank every single faculty member that is here today and their classes, because I think this will be a really very interesting session, and we hope that you will have the opportunity to also make some comments, observations, ask some questions after the speakers' panel. For Zabist, I think Women's Day and women's empowerment and issues pertaining to women have a special significance, because the founder of Zabist was a woman. The founder of Zabist, the late Muhtarama Benazir Bhutto Shaheed, was a woman leader, a remarkable woman leader, who faced enormous challenges, overcame them, and succeeded in becoming the first female Prime Minister of Pakistan and the first and only female Prime Minister of the Muslim world at that time. And she followed in the vision of her father, Shaheed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, but she established Zabist with a particular philosophy, and that philosophy includes the empowerment of young women. And I'm very pleased to see a lot of young women here today as part of the various classes. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I really warmly welcome everyone. I hope that we will have a very interesting session here today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I would also like to invite Ms. Nadra Zaidi and Ms. Komal Joyo to be seated on stage, please. We will now proceed to watch a video titled Courageous Female Inspire on International Women's Day.
Who am I? I am a woman. I am beautiful, beautiful at heart. I am kind, kind by nature. I am loving, loving you until the end. I am sensitive. I feel from within. I am tough. I can battle anything. I am smart, smart enough to make my own choices. I have reached the stars and made you bow. I am a leader, an entrepreneur. I am self-made. I am anything and everything I want to be. I will not let anyone else decide what I should wear or if I should educate myself. I will not allow anyone else to set a limit for me. I will not let any magazines or ads decide if my body is perfect or not. I am perfect just the way I am. I will not let society decide my worth, because I know the same society will not stand by me in my downfall. I do not need anyone to lift me. I can lift myself. I am on a journey to explore myself and grow stronger and stronger as each day passes by. I have built a firm foundation for myself, foundation from the same bricks that were thrown at me. I am here to live the most of my life, to follow my heart, my instincts, and make this world a better place to live in. A man, my man, is not my financial plan. He is my love. He is my life partner, and I do not depend on him. I am independent. I do not deserve cruelty, harassment, judgment. All I deserve is love and respect. All anyone deserves is love and respect. I am fearless, and by fearless, I don't mean I'm not afraid of anything. I mean, I will live in spite of all the things that scare me to death. Over the years, I have learned to let the hatred go past me and just spread love and compassion. I am here to make a difference. I believe in myself, and I will not allow you to make me feel differently. I am a daughter. I am a sister. I am a girlfriend. I am a wife. I am a mother. I am a grandmother. Who am I, you ask? I am a woman.
That was indeed very inspiring. I will now like to introduce Ms. Ifat Ara. Ms. Ifat Ara is an economist. She obtained her MA in Economics from University of Karachi, MPhil from Applied Economics Research Centre, and MS from Warwick University, UK. She worked at Social Policy Development Centre from 2003 to 2017. Her fields of research have been international trade, industry, labor, and gender. She has several publications to her credit. And Ms. Ifat Ara will speak on women and public transport in Karachi. Please welcome her.
Ms. Shahnaz Wazir Ali, Ms. Nasreen Haq, Ma'am Nurul Shah, respected faculty members, students, and guests, Assalamu alaikum. First, I would like to thank Ms. Shahnaz Wazir Ali and Ms. Nasreen Haq for inviting me to speak on this, very important occasion. At this point, I've been working on issues related to gender, particularly women employment issues, women labor force participation issues for the last many years. And my research largely focuses on women in labor force. And I feel that beside other things, we need to look at the issues when we talk about labor force, female labor force participation. I feel that to bring women into the labor force, it is important to talk about the issues that often disempower them. And I feel one such important issue is the public transport. And today I would like to share some of the findings of my research that I've conducted on the female issues in the transportation in Karachi. First, I think it's important to know that why I feel and transportation is an important issue. Because transport policies or transport projects and services in Pakistan seldom recognize or address the travel needs, concerns, priorities, and preferences of women. When there is women-unfriendly transport, then it hinders their daily businesses and make them insecure, uncomfortable, and also jeopardizes and often limits their mobility, such as reduces their ability to participate in educational and professional activities as well as in public life. Now this is a picture of a minibus, a very real life picture of the transportation in public transport in Karachi. We all see is a minibus overloaded, men sitting at the rooftop, and women, they are struggling to get into the bus. So this is a picture. We all can feel that when people, as well as men even, if they travel like this and we reach to our education place or workplace, how, discomfort we and how frustrated one get when reach to the place, and then we can feel and that how it affects their productivity and performance. A research was undertaken to assess women transportation needs and harassment that occur in public transport in Karachi. For that, we conducted a survey of 230 women, all of them age 15 plus, 15 years and above, who commute in the public transport. And of those we interviewed, 34% were those who were working women, 33% were students, and the remaining 33% were homemakers. These females were of different age groups, all above 15, but different age groups, educational and different family income level. The mode of public transportation we covered in this survey or in that study was big buses, mini buses, and chinchis. And why did we cover these mode of transportation? Because these charges, the fare is per person. While, and we didn't cover the taxi, car taxi or rickshaw because they charge per trip. So we feel that these mode of transportation are sort of economic mode of transportation. Of the total working women we covered, 80% mentioned, 80% and the 63% of the total student we covered mentioned that they use public transport 5 to 7 days in a week. And homemakers appear largely homebound, using public transport sometimes. And of course, the purpose of these were, all these commuters, women commuters, were the education, work, medical, shopping, visiting relatives, vocational training, recreation, etc. Before I present you the findings, I would like to just put your attention. Of course, I know most of you, or perhaps all of you know, the features of the transportation we have in Karachi bus. Just have mentioning you that this picture is a inside of a minibus. The minibus we saw in the earlier picture. This is the inside of this bus. The front section is the women's section, while the back is the men's section. Both sections have separate door. We can see in the front section there is a door on the left, and there is another door at the back side, which is for the men's sections. However, the two sections are separated. These two sections are separated, and we see with these, pipe fans. With the two sections are separated, and even then, though they are separated, but there is an opening in between where one can move between the two sections inside the bus. Seating capacity in this bus is almost 25 to 26 persons. However, the women's section has seating capacity of 7% and 18%. Men's section have 18%. Since only 7 women can sit, what these buses usually, what the driver do usually, that we see the driver's seat closes the engine. There is a seat on the engine as well. So women usually sit on this engine. Two women can sit, and there is also a seat at the back of the driver's seat. So at times, driver hand touches female passenger's knee intentionally or unintentionally while changing gear. I don't know whether you can see in this picture that the driver's seat on the left of his is a gear, hand gear, and which is very close to this engine seat on the engine. And again, the seat which is at the back of the driver's seat is seat facing the men's section. Minibuses, usually they have left space for people to stand. So in the women's section, 4 to 5, 6 people can stand, while in the men's section, 8 to 10 people can stand. Now, this is another mode which is called chinchi. These are different forms, but usually a chinchi can accommodate 9 persons. 3 seats, and 3 persons can sit on each seat. The 2 seats are facing each other inside, while the upper picture, the above one, where we can see the 2 feet inside this chinchi, two seats facing each other, while in the picture below, the seat which is facing backwards. There are no reserved seats in this chinchi, and our social norm dictate that only women can sit beside another woman. However, women and men sit on seats facing each other. Now we asked to the daily commuters that how often they get a place to sit in the bus. The responses indicate that 45% of the interview responses indicate that they commute in the morning hours, and of those 13% said that they never get a chance to sit, never get a place to sit, and 25% said that they always. However, 62% said that they rarely get a place to sit. This is, the other one, 30% commute in the afternoon, and again in the afternoon we see that 63% say that they rarely get a chance to sit. In the evening, 19% commute in the evening, because the morning is the peak hour when students and working women, everybody has to go to the education institution or the workplace, and the return timing is different. Some come in the afternoon, particularly the students, and some come in the evening. So in these peak hours, we see that over 60% of the female commuters don't get a place, rarely get a place to sit. At night, of course, this only 7% of the women interviewed commute, so 50% get chance to sit. This is another question we asked, that how often it happened that when they travel in the bus, the men were in the women's section. So women do not prefer to sit in the men's section. It's rarely happened. However, it's often happened that men sit or stand in the women's section. So among these students we interviewed, 52% said that they traveled many times in the minibus when the men's were in the women's section, either standing or sitting. And 65% of the women, working women, and 53% of the housemakers mentioned that they traveled when men were in the women's section. Next, we asked about the harassment, if they ever felt with all these, traveling like this. 75% of the working women, 69% of the students, and 44% homemakers mentioned that they felt harassed more than once while commuting. These pie charts indicate the green portion is those who mentioned sometimes, purple mentioned many times, blue never, and the red one once. So the never we see is very rare. In case of homemaker, it is 33%, and it could be due to the reason that harassment by students and working women could be related to their younger age, higher frequency of commuting, and in commuting in peak hours. While the homemakers, they often do not commute in peak hours and do not commute as frequent as students and working women. The perpetrators, we also asked to whom the perpetrators are. So the 75% of all the women interviewed mentioned that the fellow passengers. Some 20% mentioned bus conductors, while the remaining 5% indicated the drivers also they felt harassed because of the drivers' some uncomfortable actions. This is the type of harassment we asked. The most common type of harassment was staring and deliberate contact or groping. They all constitute 34 and 34% of the total responses. Other form of the violences or harassment reported by these female commuters were sexual comments, obscene gestures, being followed, making animal or kissing noises, or sometimes whistling, and blocking the way. This is a picture from inside the bus. We see that the seat, as I mentioned earlier, close to the driver's seats, where we see a man is sitting on the seat which is placed on the engine. And the other, in the second picture, we see that a man is standing, though standing in the men's sections, but women feel uncomfortable because they used to come and fro between the two sections. And this is another form women mentioned, that men also use the opening to enter women's section to exit the bus from the front gate, and vice versa. So nearly half of the respondents consider this as a form of harassment, given that the space in the women's section is limited and crowded, because the picture we saw is, I mean, everybody is sitting, but it usually not happens. This because we were taking the pictures at that time, so it was not that much crowded, but often the buses are not as such. I mean, it's all fully crowded, and we can just assume that if women are sitting, it's all full standing, and men coming from this opening and exit from this front gate, and how it bothers the girls and the women sitting in this section. So this is the same, the picture where we can see men entering when we were taking these pictures. These are pictures taken some of the, bus stops. So we were just waiting to get a picture where we can snap a man standing from the front gate. So this picture shows that. Now we ask them what do they do? How do they tackle, or what are the effects of these sort of harassment incidents? So 29% student, 41% working women, and again 41% homemakers, they said that no effect. And when say that no effect, that means that they are now used to it. They don't care. People are saying, let them say, because they know men are men and they'll be like that. So they perhaps become used to of this. Reduce commuting from public transport, 24% of the students, 19% of working women, and 16% homemakers. And we feel that if one says that reduce commuting from public transport, so it's some create pressure on financial pressure, because the public transport is an economical way of commuting, and using private transportation or taxi where the fares are higher puts some sort of financial burden on them. So it's again a kind of pressure on them. They change travel pattern or route. And another thing which we feel is again a problem or another discomfort is someone accompanying you while traveling, or avoid going out alone after dark. So they have to wait for someone, they have to ask their brother, mother, anyone in the family to accompany when they are going out. So again, this is some cumbersome thing. And many girls and women mentioned they started taking hijab or started covering them while commuting in the public transport, in the buses particularly. And a few also mentioned that they left educational institution and job due to these sort of harassment, because they don't feel going out in that way comfortable, and they cannot afford to go through the private transport. So I think that's all I wanted to share you with the. Thank you very much. Because I have to leave for early. So, okay, Dr. Shahnaz, can I ask if anybody has a question at that time to me? Solution, because we asked the women, this I didn't show in this, we asked the women commuters, so what do they think? How can these problems be tackled? So many mentioned that the separate transport, and some mentioned that the women's section should be large enough, because now many women goes out. It's not necessary that they are going out for their job or the educational, but women commute, visiting relatives, going for shopping, so they need a proper transport. So they said that they don't understand now this logic, that why the women's section is so small, and why number of buses are very, because women has to, this was again asked, the women said that they have to wait long hours at the bus stop to get a bus. Because in the peak hours, it often happens that men, the front section of the women were all occupied by the male. So the women didn't get into the bus because the entire bus used to be full with the men. So how they can get into it? So they mentioned that the buses to be increased. So I think the public transport, as we see that in Karachi, the Green Line bus is on its way. Let's see, because I think there are many examples that have, for example, in Turkey, if you see, they have a very, very, well-managed public transport system. In Dubai, we can see the metro they have. So, and I have traveled Dubai in metro, where I have found that mostly the working women and the students, they travel from that. I mean, it's a better option, but I think we have to think that can anybody afford to buy a motorcycle? I mean, this I was talking the public transport which everybody easily avail. So for that, I think the government has to devise some policy so that everybody can get a motorcycle.
Women are quite poor.
Buying a motorcycle, I think, is not.
They can drive, they can aeroplane, they can fly aeroplanes. So why not driving motorcycles?
May I ask you one thing, sir? How many female members you know or belong to you drive motorcycle in Karachi?
Some of my younger cousins, they drive. Their first passion is to drive, like cycles.
But I think is this have some financial related to the finances as well? I mean,
there is only one suggestion regarding harassment. The harassment bill has been passed. I think it should be translated in Urdu and posted in each and every transport mode so that the riders and the drivers and others are aware of this, and the women as well.
This is one of the things, because we also asked about the women that do they know that there are laws exist
because mostly
regarding
they
harassment.
don't know the laws.
So many also
Awareness
mentioned this, that
must.
there should be these things should be written inside the bus.
Inside the bus.
So yes.
You said that there are sections for women and men separately on a bus, and then men just barge in, and that's a huge problem. Do you think if, instead we just divided up the buses, right? We had specific number of buses just for women and specific number of buses just for men, would that fix it?
I mean, that was, I think to devise any policy, we have to think that all these things depends on how can we finance those things. Having different buses, would it be feasible? Because in terms of gender, when I work on gender, we see that we talk one thing, gender mainstreaming. And gender mainstreaming means that because men and women, they are दो एक समाज के हिस्से है ना, तो अगर we have to work together, not in isolation. So if you work in isolation, we need to understand each other. If you have separate buses for women, separate buses, in a way it's that good. But are these we disintegrating them or just mainstreaming? So in that way, it's not gender. So when we talk of gender, we said these to be mainstreaming, that bringing men and women together. So as a gender researcher, I think the bus should be where men and women both in the bus, but both have to respect each other.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, Ms. Fatara. I would now like to introduce Ms. Nasreen Haq, Vice President, Administration and Finance at Zabist. Ms. Nasreen Haq possesses 41 years of experience as a senior civil servant, retiring as Grade 22 Federal Secretary. Mrs. Haq is founder member and chairperson of Civil Services Academy Alumni Sindh. She is fellow of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport UK and holds the position of chairperson of Women in Logistics and Transport. She was elected as member of Executive Committee of International Association of Ports and Harbors, Tokyo, Japan, to represent Asia-Oceania region. Let's all welcome Ms. Nasreen Haq. Ms. Nasreen Haq will share with us the emerging trends of development of women in Pakistan.
Honorable Chief Guests, Madam Nurul Hada Shah, President Zabist, Madam Shanaz Wazir Ali, Vice President Zabist, Dr. Altaf Mukati, Honorary Secretary CILT Wing Commander Jamil Sheikh, members of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport and Women in Logistics and Transport, distinguished guests, faculty, and my dear students, a very good afternoon to each one of you. It is my singular pleasure to offer my views on the most crucial subject of women empowerment in Pakistan and their place in any society, particularly in Pakistani social milieu. It is also an honor for me to be conveying my ideas to a bevy of talented individuals consisting of both males and females gathered here today to mark the proverbial Women's Day. While addressing you, I feel qualified and encouraged by the fact that with sheer persistence, I broke the barriers of gender inequality by successfully negotiating the sturdy nuances of railway service, where frequently I was the only woman surrounded by hordes of men and never hesitated to lead and guide them. On a different note, I must convey my glad tidings at the colorful audience gathered here today, reflecting a wonderful combination of males and females joined together for a worthy cause. In Pakistan, we are unfortunately conditioned to view intergender relations in the perspective of hackneyed ideas and beliefs. We probably do not appreciate that human genes have everything in common, except some dissimilarities of shape between the male and the female Homo sapiens. To an ordinary eye, I'm surely different than a male, but in my inner self, I possess the same qualities that he does. I appreciate things, I desire goals to be achieved, and I love my family and friends. By virtue of the social arrangement evolved in our part of the world, a woman was somehow rated lower than a male in social hierarchical order. The weakness of her limbs and the fragility of her emotions gave her a weaker ring. But the dominant male race failed to realize for a long time that female is the harbinger of fountain of life, whether male or female. The unfortunate result of placing women down below in social order disempowered her in multiple ways, only because she lacked the social power to demand and achieve equality. Despite being an entity, she was treated as a non-entity. Right from the confines of her home, woman was discriminated against when boys were the apples of the eyes and girls languished in bonds of domesticity. The dawn of a gradual social change, however, witnessed girls competing with boys in all academic and professional disciplines and proving their worth. Year after year, they proved their superior educational skills by topping the lists in any examination, beginning from higher secondary to post-graduation. The outstanding success of female gender proves that it is actually the sole social foundations of a social order, encouraging merit and equality, that makes all the difference, and not gender disposition that determines merit. The evolving social changes saw parents conceding the right to consider girls in matrimonial matters. No longer is a girl packed away in marriage without consideration of age and suitability of prospective partners. The underlying factors involved in bringing about this veritable development is simply not the change of hearts of parents, but the insistent struggle of girls, empowered by education and positive social sense that played a decisive part in it. The atrocity of unsuitable and child marriages is still practiced, but very strong social and cultural forces led by women like late redoubtable Asma Jahangir are gradually coming to grips with it. There is a host of women activists who are quietly struggling to do away with this menace, and I am hopeful that their efforts will soon bear fruit. Let me add here expeditiously and with due reverence that the place we are present here today, the unparalleled institution Zabist, was envisioned and put to practice by a lady of exceptional merit, Shaheed Mohatarma Benazir Bhutto. It is very obvious to realize today that she was a woman of foresight and immense practical value to have founded this meritorious institution which is benefiting all and sundry. We are also proud that now Zabist is being run by another remarkable lady, Dr. Azra Fazal Pichio, who has taken exceptional steps in taking this institution forward. The sagacity of Mohatarma Shaheed Bhutto could be gauged from the abundantly caring Benazir Income Support Program. Designed by the well-known economist and social scientist, Dr. Kaisar Bengali, currently our Dean of Management Sciences. This program has become a hallmark of providing support to millions of the needy. BISP was the first direct poverty relief alleviation benefit accorded to the people of Pakistan since the inception of this country. The profound impact of Mohatarma Shaheed's initiative has since its continuation despite change in government. There have also been many other valuable personalities that fought for women rights, and we are fortunate to have one of them amongst us today, Madam Shahnaz Wazir Ali, our President. I would emphasize that Madam Shahnaz Wazir Ali has played a significant role in formulating and implementing important legislations devised to support women causes, such as prevention of child marriages, protection of women against harassment at workplace, women's right to inheritance, and many, many more. I also wish to praise the government of Sindh for having taken several steps to implement pro-women laws. I may, however, add that the legislation has been put in place, but it suffers from lack of implementation. It would be in the fitness in things, therefore, to call for taking steps to implement the laudable legislative parliamentary achievements undertaken by the Sindh government. Ladies and gentlemen, driving by women was a social taboo and looked down upon just because the male-dominated social structure disparaged independence so acquired by women. The taboo needs a substantial crack to break it and is considered a consistent effort to override it. Women of Pakistan successfully overcame this hurdle, and I'm sure many of the women faculty members of Zabist come to office and travel back home driving on their own. The travel woes of women still persist, and they face discrimination while traveling. But the emergence of outfits like Pink Taxi will soon overcome it, and they will empower women to take care of their travel needs. I'm happy to report that Zabist has initiated a valuable program aimed at encouraging women to participate adequately in the vital field of logistics and transport. This program is a corollary to the competent training schedule of Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, in short, CILT, an international body engaged in furthering the cause of logistics and transport the world over. I, being a fellow of the CILT, felt it necessary to help extend the appropriate training portfolio of CILT for the benefit of our students at Zabast. Let me just mention as a passing reference that CILT is pursuing a dedicated policy of empowering women in this vital field and has devised a platform known as Women in Logistics and Transport. In short, it's called Vilat, specially designed for the purpose, and I happen to head it in Pakistan. It is very obvious that logistic and transport fields are the future endeavor, promising very healthy returns to professionals of this field. The entire operation encompassing the highly valuable CPAC, that is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, is provision of wide-ranging logistic requirements that are inevitably allied with transport requirements. CPAC is a multi-dimensional partnership that China is exclusively holding with Pakistan, with the primary aim to develop expertise in logistics and transport, in which Pakistan is required to do much more. I am very positive that the academic discipline introduced in Zabast will go a long way in producing experts who will, in large numbers, be willing to join this important field of endeavor. I must particularly emphasize that the woman part undertaking this course will acquire enough expertise to function effectively in the transport and logistics field. That will be conducive for them to garner enough empowerment to obtain control over vital resources required for managing logistics and transport. The logicality of the situation demands that girls are encouraged to participate in this course in large numbers so that they fill in the openings afforded by the fast emerging logistic and transport opportunities. At the moment, in logistics and transport sectors, women are employed in the peripheral fields of activity, and that too in limited numbers. Once the speciality of Zabast comes of age, women will be able to perform supervisory, medium, and high-level jobs in logistic and transport sectors, enhancing not only their productivity, but they will also be able to contribute to the national prosperity. I'm sure that the evolving social mores have provided an unmitigated opportunity to women of Pakistan to forge ahead and empower themselves. Social orders do not make way automatically, but the only way to open doors is to consistently keep knocking on them. It is my firm belief that social structures do give way to deserving groups, whether they are male or females. I take women as a forcefully adequate group that just requires patience and the ability to forge ahead. There is no free lunch in this world, and success comes to those who venture to achieve it. I hope that women will realize their true worth in our social construct and will be willing partners of the men folk in furthering the cause of national development. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for sharing your views, Ms. Haq. I would now like to invite Ms. Nadra Zaidi. She is a faculty member in the English program and has been with us for the past 2.5 years. Ms. Zaidi will speak on 4,800 seconds.
Respectful salams and warm greetings to my inspiration and women of substance here at Zabast, President Madam Shehnaz Wazir Ali, Vice President Administration Finance Madam Nasreen Haq, my worthy Vice President Academics Dr. Altaf Mukati, the Chief Guest for today Ms. Nurul Huda Shah, my Dean, Social Sciences, Dr. Riaz Ahmed Sheikh, Dean Management Sciences, Dr. Kaisar Bengali, the distinguished panel of speakers and guests, fellow colleagues and faculty members, and you, dear students, my reason for coming in every day. Thank you for being that reason. I begin 4,800 seconds. 4,800 seconds. Tick, 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 tick. Each second passes excruciatingly slowly. My head is bent throughout. I'm too tall and the roof is too low. The muscles at the nape protrude painfully from the constant strain. There is standing room only. I try to maintain my grip on the bar overhead as the bodies swell in increasing numbers around me. I can hardly breathe through the garment covering my face. Each intake sucks in the rancid, pungent odor of sweat, bringing on a fresh wave of nausea. 4,800 seconds of this every day of my life as I commuted from Karachi University by public bus, pursuing a bachelor's and then a master's degree. Why did I choose this as opposed to going to a college that was just a few minutes from my home? Simple. I wanted to expand my horizons. My parents warned me that going to the university was no easy task. They were right. It wasn't. But I wanted to study literature, and the university had the best department at that time, and so I went, carrying my urban survival kit or my backpack on my back. I could choose to moan about the pain in my neck and the suffocating odor during those interminable moments, but this was a daily routine for so many women in that bus. Some of them in their old, worn-out clothing, oft remnants of their Begum Sahib's wardrobes, would ask me to hand my heavy backpack to them, saying, "Give it to me, child. You have been standing for so long." And they would keep it protectively on their bony laps, not minding the weight, while smiling and giving me prayers. Sometimes, when I was stepping off the bus and was about to pay the conductor the fare, he would say, "It has been done." When I would ask him, "Who paid?" the reply would be, "Amma did, Bibi did, or Behan did." I had no idea who these women were, as he refused to identify them. Thus, I could not pay them back. It was a mere 7 rupees, but for some of them, at that time, that money was dear. I knew I belonged to a different stratum than them, but I realized that together we were not different. It was just a gesture of kindness for a fellow female, and the fragrance of that kindness still emanates within me. Whack went the conductor's hand on the side of the bus, signaling it to stop. This is where I finally disembarked. However, it was not conveniently at my doorstep. I now had to walk from the main road to my home. There would be many more seconds added to those 4,800 seconds. I would readjust the garment, wrapping it more protectively, enshrouding myself further, and readjusted the gloves, my fingers stiff from grasping the rod with such intensity. Taking a quick look around, I would begin walking. Very few days would go by when this was not an unpleasant trek. "Come sit down with me. What is your rate?" Whistles and unfathomable animal noises and grunts would be thrown my way by young men and old, dehumanizing and objectifying me in the worst manner possible. That is why I covered up. But this did not stop them. There was no one type. They called out from big, swanky cars to motorbikes, and oft times I would be followed home. Again, I had the choice to stop going to the university. Why go through this hassle? Not to name so many others that were the norm. But I realized that I could also choose to ignore those predators and just keep walking onwards. They had no control over me. They could not curtail me. They could not contain me. In hindsight, the degrees were worth it. As a result, I was able to work at one of the best academic institutions in this city, just as I am here at Zabist. And on a personal level, I was able to contribute to my father's medical expenses from the time that he fell ill till he passed on. I had become an economically independent woman, a viable member of my household, just like my brothers. Dear audience, I would ask for your attention as I move towards my final thoughts. If the letter I is incomplete without a dot on the top, then some think a woman's beauty is incomplete until she adorns glittering gems. But gems do not give off an all-pervasive fragrance. They are pretty baubles hanging on a pretty face, but they turn it into an object as well. Sadly, some of these faces, when they open their mouths, out emanates the bad breath of an uneducated and unrefined soul. It is education and the right upbringing that changes and transforms people. It is education that beautifies them. We as women need to help, encourage, and support each other while taking the men in our lives on board to help transform ourselves and others from the pretty objects to become the sweet fragrance that spreads everywhere. Together, even if different, we can be beautiful and special because of this fragrance, a fragrance that cannot be curtailed or contained. Thank you for your time and attention.
Ms. Zaidi, you've beautifully penned your thoughts, your feelings. Thank you. I would now like to call Ms. Komal Joyo, a student of Zabist from the BBA program, 8th semester.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Ms. Shella for giving me this privilege to be part of these prestigious women and stand here and speak to you guys on the Women International Day. So before I start, I know that mostly whenever firstly I'm introduced to new people, they think that who is this girl, young, short-heighted, who's actually 22 years old but looks 15? How can she do something big in her life? And I don't blame you for that, because that is how we perceive our first perceptions whenever we see anyone. And that is how we go ahead. But we never think that what story, what struggle, what life they have went through, and how about she's a girl, but she might have some achievements in her life. And that might help other people to actually stand up and realize that we have been doing nothing. Why did we give up? Why can't we stand up, collect all the stones that were thrown in our path, and make a bridge and cross it? Then only the society will accept us. Because we did not stop. Initially, we will face the hardships. We will go through struggles. But then once the society says that this person is not a survivor, but a warrior, and then they will be there. These men among you will be there to help you, to show you the path, and praise you. So, my life had nothing to offer. It was pretty ordinary. But then, back in 1999, every unordinary thing started to happen. When my sister was born, and I didn't know that 2003 would be the last time I would see her until the next 4 years. I was just told that My mother and sister are going for an ice cream and they'll be back soon. But then 4 years passed and I used to go to the courtroom to visit my mother and never see my sister. Until 2006, little did I know it was the last day at my home where I was born and I would be shifted to my mother, the custody would be given to her, and that I have to start my life all over again. I have to leave everything behind because I was just a child, 9-year-old, and I didn't know what's happening. And I was just taken from one city to another, from my father to my mother. And then I didn't realize who to connect to, where to go to, who is at my back, who will be there to support me, where do I share my feelings. And that was the time where I realized that I need to be numb, I need to stop being sensitive about things, I need to see what's happening ahead, go with the flow. And then I had strong belief in myself. It was the years of struggles and hardship initially that I faced in my school, because I was the child who would love to play around like every other child. But then I was also insulted and beaten up by the kids, and when nobody can take a stand for that. And still, I would go again and again and come back, because I knew that I am being honest, this is me, and I'll just let it go, whatever life has to throw on me. Moving on. Now I am not only a brave girl today, I can assure you that, and my teachers can vouch for it because they have been super supportive over here, despite the fact that I have been studying and working along. Working because I have seen my mother traveling in those transports, in public transports that ma'am mentioned earlier, where so many cases, harassment cases, and people would demean you and de-look at you because we didn't possess our own car and because my mother need to earn for our education. So it was back then I realized that I need to stand up and work. I need to earn too. Why can't I do that? No matter what, that was back in 2011, when I was 15 years old, I started working. And since now, until 2018, I'm still working and I'm still studying. And I'm also the most brave girl, I would say, in the society who can go around and go alone anywhere and indulge and talk and interact with the shopkeeper, with a public transport person, or with anyone. Because life taught me all of this, and life chose me to do all of this at the teenager. Trying hard to keep balance between my university life and work life, and being the man of my small family, my mother and my younger sister. In a male-dominant society, I am an ordinary girl with extraordinary skills of passion and determination. And I wish to be a persistent fighter, not just sit back and look at life throwing things at me, the ugliest things at me, but to stand up and reply it back, that here I am, I have a purpose. If I stand up for myself, then only people will stand up for me, and then only I can stand up for my family. And then only I can stand up for all the women here, and then the society would accept us. Why not? They would know it is us who are holding ourselves, it is our fears. How about we challenge ourselves and get out in the society and talk to those people? They will understand, because every one of you here, I'm sure, must have been through a lot of struggles in your life, and everyone has a story. It's just not me over here who's sharing my story, but it's the inspiration from these women. That is why I'm here, and the encouragement and empowerment. It was back in 10 years, a decade, that I was discouraged and disempowered all the time. But now I am here, a Zabist student. Little did I know that I would be standing in front of you people and sitting among these prestigious women. I would like to express gratitude to all women who have endured years of struggles, abuse, hardship, because they, like my mother, had children to feed, bills to pay, and dreams to pursue. All of us have dreams to pursue. We wanted education, and education was the only tool that got us there, will get us there, in fact. And I'm really proud that all of you are here studying in Zabist, and all the girls I see at the back. That's amazing that you guys are fighting for your education. But one last thing I would like to share, that there's something in common that all of us have, the one quality all the women have. That is, despite the fact whatever life has given you, we ensure that we maintain the ability of hope, that there's a brighter morning tomorrow during the darkest of nights. We don't know who we are, a mother, a wife, a housewife, a daughter-in-law, a doctor. Who are we? We are women. We are the girls of the society, and we need equal rights, and we need to be there. The Me Too campaign was all about that. If men are there, women can be there. They can also do it, and they can also pursue their dreams. Why are we only told to give up our dream and compromise on our dreams? So today I'm telling you that this is a new day in the horizon, and despite the defeats you have faced in your life, the struggles you have faced in your life, use that as a pillar, the driving force that will make you stand up for yourself and make you believe in yourself. All it starts from within. You are more stronger than you think. So if you stand up for yourself, you will face hardships, but then people will also accept you and help you out. These men in the society, these guys will help you out, because if we stand up for ourselves. So I would like to end this saying that life is short, and you should never give up, and believe in yourself and have faith. It will be a successful life, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Joyo, for sharing your experience. It does take courage and a big heart to do so. Now we'll watch a video on the facts and figures on women empowerment. I would now like to introduce our chief guest, Ms. Noorul Huda Shah. Ms. Noorul Huda Shah is a prominent Sindhi and Urdu language playwright and novelist. She is known for writing popular award-winning TV serials like Jungle, Marvi, Bebak, Meri Adhuri Mohabbat, Ajaib Ghar, Adhura Milan, and Ishq Gumshuda, where she highlighted social issues facing the country. She ranks among the foremost enlightened individuals of the country. Please welcome Ms. Noorul Huda Shah.
बहुत शुक्रिया. हम राइटर लोग इस बात में बिलीव रखते हैं कि जब हम बात करें तो बस ड्राइवर से लेकर कंडक्टर से लेकर सीट्स पर बैठे हुए उन लोगों तक जिनसे हमें शिकायत है, सब लोग हमारी बात समझ सकें. मैं भी ये सब जो हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे, ये सब जो हम देख रहे थे, जो बस हम देख रहे थे, उसमें जो सफोकेशन हम महसूस कर रहे थे, जो बातें हम सुन रहे थे, और क्योंकि मेरे सामने इस वक्त ज़ैविस्ट جیسے انسٹیٹیوٹ کے اسٹوڈنٹس بیٹھے ہوئے ہیں، تو مجھے خیال آیا میں آپ کے ساتھ یہ بات شیئر کروں، یہ خیال شیئر کروں کہ ہماری سوسائٹی اور وہ گھر جو ہمارے ارد گرد ہیں، اس سوسائٹی میں ہیں، وہ گھر جن میں ہم رہتے ہیں، وہ گھر جن میں ہمارے دوست احباب رہتے ہیں، ہمارے فرینڈز، ہم خود بھی رہتے ہیں ان گھروں میں، چاہے وہ گلیاں ہوں، چاہے وہ ڈیفنس کے خوبصورت گھر ہوں. لیکن اگر آپ لوگ خاص طور پر اگر غور کریں، وہ انہی بسوں کی طرح ہیں. یہی سفوکیشن آپ کو اس سوسائٹی میں اور ان کے گھروں میں نظر آئے گی. آپ کی اپنی، کیونکہ اس وقت آپ جس ایج گروپ کے لوگ یہاں بیٹھے ہوئے ہیں خاص طور پر، تو میں صرف آپ کی بہن کا لفظ استعمال کروں گی کہ آپ کی اپنی بہنیں اپنے گھروں میں اسی طرح رہتی ہیں، اسی چھوٹی سی جگہ جو ہم انہیں دیتے ہیں گھر کی بس میں، اس مخصوص سیٹ پر اسے بیٹھنا ہے. وہ اپنی مرضی سے سیٹ سلیکٹ نہیں کر سکتی، اور ہم سمجھتے ہیں کہ ہم نے اسے اپنے گھر میں بہترین اور محترم اور بڑی رسپیکٹ کے ساتھ ایک جگہ اسے دی ہے، جبکہ ایسا نہیں ہے. اگر اسی بس کو آپ امیجن کرتے ہوئے اپنے گھروں میں چلیں، چاہے وہ کتنا ہی بڑا گھر ہو، چاہے کتنے ہی وہاں براڈ مائنڈڈ لوگ رہتے ہوں، لیکن آپ کے ارد گرد جو سوسائٹی ہے، آپ کی جو بہن ہے، وہ اپنی اصل سیٹ کی سٹل منتظر ہے. اور کس سے منتظر ہے اور کس کا بہت بڑا رول ہونا چاہیے اس سوسائٹی میں. کہنے کو تو ہم کہہ دیتے ہیں ایک لفظ کہ یہ جب ہم جینڈر کو ڈیوائڈ کرتے ہیں تو ہم یہ کہہ دیتے ہیں کہ یہ مرد کا فرض ہے، یہ باپ کا فرض ہے. لیکن ایک بہت بڑا رول ہے سوسائٹی میں جسے مخاطب نہیں کیا جاتا، کم مخاطب کیا جاتا ہے، وہ ہے بھائی کا. ایک چیز جو ہمیں سمجھ لینی چاہیے اس وقت جب ہم مذہب کا حوالہ دے کر سوسائٹی کے لیے کئی فتوے سنتے بھی ہیں، بلیو بھی کرتے ہیں ان میں، ایسے ماحول میں کچھ چیزیں ہمیں سمجھ لینی چاہیے. بھائی جس طرح ایک انڈیویجول ہے، بہن اسی طرح ایک انڈیویجول ہے. بھائی کا قانونی طور پر، مذہبی طور پر، سوسائٹی کے حوالے سے، سماجی طور پر بہن پر کوئی حق نہیں ہے سوائے ایک حق کے کہ وہ اسے جینے دے، وہ اسے اس کی مرضی کی سیٹ پر بیٹھنے دے. ہم جو سمجھتے ہیں، آپ بچے جن کو یہ میسج پچھلی آپ کی نسلیں آگے کنوے کرتی آئی ہیں، آپ بچے، آپ نوجوان، آپ بھائی، آپ بہنیں جو ہیں، ان کی آپ کو آج مذہب جو آپ کو جو میسج دے رہا ہے، آج کا مولوی جو آپ کو مذہبی میسج دے رہا ہے، مذہب آپ کو یہ میسج نہیں دے رہا. وہ یہ ہے کہ بھائی بہن کا وارث ہے. بھائی بہن کا وارث نہیں ہے. فرد اپنا خود وارث ہے. یہ آپ کو آپ کا مذہب کہتا ہے. انڈیویجول خود اپنا وارث ہے. بالکل اس طرح جس طرح آپ لوگ یہ سنتے ہیں کہ ہم اپنے اعمال کے ذریعے چھٹکارا پائیں گے، ذاتی اعمال کے ذریعے. جب ہم ذاتی اعمال کے ذریعے چھٹکارا پائیں گے تو اٹ مینس ہم ذاتی اعمال کے ذریعے جینے کا حق رکھتے ہیں. میری آپ بچوں سے صرف یہ گزارش ہے کہ اپنی سوسائٹی کو، اپنے گھروں کو، اپنے ارد گرد کے لوگوں کو، ایک شخص دراصل ایک بندہ، ایک انڈیویجول، ایک نوجوان اپنے ساتھ کئی لوگوں کو کریٹ کرتا ہے، ری کرتا ہے. کئی ایسے ایک مائنڈ سیٹ جو ہے سوسائٹی کا، اس کو آپ ریکریٹ کرنے کی ایبلٹی رکھتے ہیں. اپنے گھروں کو اپنے گھر سے، اپنے گھر سے، اپنے اندر سے، یہاں سے شروع کر کے اس بس جیسے سفوکیٹڈ ماحول سے اپنے گھروں کو، اپنی بہنوں کو، چھوٹی بہنوں کو، بڑی بہنوں کو، ان کو باہر لے آئیے. انکار کر دیجئے کہ ہم اس سوسائٹی سے ایگری نہیں کرتے جو اس پبلک ٹرانسپورٹ جیسی گندی، تنگ بس جیسی سوسائٹی ہے. بہن کو بالکل اسی طرح جس طرح ہم آج بات کر رہے ہیں اور سوچ رہے ہیں، بہن کو زندہ رہنے کے لیے اسپیس نہ صرف دیجئے، بہن کو اسپیس زندہ رہنے کے لیے لے کر دیجئے، اپنے پورے ماحول سے لے کر دیجئے. اسے آگے لے آئیے. جس سیٹ پر وہ بیٹھنا چاہے اس سیٹ پر اسے بٹھائیے. ڈرائیونگ سیٹ پر وہ بیٹھ سکتی ہے تو ڈرائیونگ سیٹ پر بیٹھنے کی اسے اجازت دیجیے اور آپ اس پر فخر کیجیے. جینڈر کو جس طرح ہم عورت، مرد، لڑکا، لڑکی میں ڈیوائیڈ کرتے ہیں، عورت ہونا بہت ہی خوبصورت چیز ہے. میں تو اس بات میں بھی بیلیو رکھتی ہوں کہ جس مرد کے اندر ایک عورت نہیں ہے وہ کچھ بھی نہیں کر سکتا. جب تک کہ مرد اپنے اندر تھوڑی سی ماں بن جائے، تھوڑی سی بہن بن جائے، تھوڑی سی سہیلی بن جائے اپنی بہن کی، تو آپ سوچیں کہ وہ کتنی خوبصورت سوسائٹی کریٹ اور ریکریٹ کر سکتا ہے. مجھے باتیں تو بہت ہیں، موضوع کو ہم نے بس میں ایکچولی بند کیا ہوا ہے. میں بھی اس بس سے باہر نکلنا نہیں چاہتی اور میں سمجھتی ہوں کہ اگر آپ نوجوان اپنی سوچ کو بدل لیں، آپ نوجوان اپنی ذات سے شروع کر لیں، آپ نوجوان اپنی بہن کو کہیں کہ تمہیں ضرورت نہیں ہے مجھ سے یہ پوچھنے کی کہ بھائی میں یہاں جاؤں یا نہ جاؤں. آپ نوجوان اگر بہن کے ساتھ کھڑے ہو جائیں تو یہ گندی بدبودار ہوتی سوسائٹی آنے والے 5 سالوں میں آپ دیکھ لیں، آپ کی سوچ ملٹی پلائی ہونا شروع ہو جائے گی. آپ کو دیکھ کر پتہ نہیں کتنے لوگ اپنی بہنوں کے لیے وہ صاف ستھری سوسائٹی سامنے لے کر آئیں گے جس کا خواب ہم سب دیکھتے ہیں. عورت کوئی بھی دیکھنے میں فزیکلی آپ کو وہ مختلف چیز نظر آتی ہے یہ مرد ہے یہ عورت ہے. اسی طرح جیسے کیونکہ یہ ہم اسی طرح ایک دوسرے کو پہچان سکتے ہیں, مگر ہے وہ انسان. ایک چھوٹی سی سوچ میں آپ کو دے کر جانا چاہوں گی اس میں کہ ایک سوچ ہے جو مذہب کو لے کر آپ کو دی جاتی ہے کہ عورت مرد کی پسلی سے پیدا ہوئی ہے, وہ اس کی دل بہلانے کے لیے آئی ہے. میں یہ سوچ آپ کو اس لیے اس سوچ پر 2 جملے بول کر آپ کو دینا چاہتی ہوں. آپ اس سوچ کو آگے مرد کی حیثیت سے, لڑکی کی حیثیت سے یا لڑکے کی حیثیت سے آپ اس کو آگے کر سکیں. اللہ تعالیٰ چاہتا, کیا اس کے پاس مٹی کم پڑ گئی تھی کہ اس نے اس کی پسلی میں سے, آدم کی پسلی میں سے عورت کو پیدا کیا؟ کیا مٹی کم پڑ گئی تھی؟ ایسا نہیں ہے. عورت آدم ہے, اس لیے آدم ہی میں سے بنی ہے. اگر وہ الگ بنی جاتی تو وہ عورت ہوتی, وہ اوپر سے ہی عورت بن کر آتی. وہ عورت جو کچلنے کے لیے ہے, جو ریپ کرنے کے لیے ہے, جو ظلم کے لیے ہے, وہ بن کر آتی. بٹ وہ خود آدم ہے. اگر آپ اس سوچ کو لے کر آگے چلیں اور آپ جب گھر جائیں اور جب یہاں سے اٹھیں, جب اپنی کلاس میٹ کو دیکھیں اور جب گھر جائیں اپنی بہن کو دیکھیں, چھوٹی بہن کو, بڑی بہن کو, اور وہ آپ کو اگر آدم نظر آئے تو سمجھیں آپ نے انسانیت کا حق ادا کر دیا. بہت شکریہ.
All right, so now I'd like to invite our President, Ms. Shehnaz Wazir Ali, on stage to give the token of appreciation to our chief guest, Ms. Noorul Huda Shah. I'd also like to request Dr. Kaisar Bengali to come on stage. Bengali will give the vote of thanks.
یہ میرا ووٹ آف تھینکس کیجول نہیں ہے, لیکن میڈم پریزیڈنٹ شہناز وزیری نے کہا کہ میں یہ کہوں اور پھر ساتھ یہ بھی کہا کہ کچھ بات بھی کروں. جب ہم یہ پروگرام ڈیزائن کر رہے تھے تو ہم نے سوچا کہ وہ جو ایک روایتی طریقہ ہوتا ہے, کچھ ویل نون لوگوں کو بلاتے ہیں اور کچھ روایتی باتیں کرتے ہیں اور بات ختم ہو جاتی ہے, اگلے مارچ کا انتظار کرتے ہیں. ہم نے سوچا تھوڑا مختلف کرتے ہیں تاکہ ہم سب سننے والے ہم انسپائر ہو. اینڈ واٹ این انسپائرنگ ایوننگ اٹ ہیز بین. I think listening to our student was very inspiring. Ms. Nadra نے بڑی انسپائرنگ بات کی اپنی تقریر خوبصورت لٹریری لینگویج میں. Ms. Joyo had a lot of passion and fight in her. She herself should be inspiring everybody. We have two women in leadership here, Ms. Shehnaz Wazir Ali and Ms. Nasreen. انہوں نے سارے گلاس سیلنگز توڑے ہیں. انہوں نے ثابت کیا ہے کہ جو آپ کرنا چاہتے ہیں زندگی میں آپ کر سکتے ہیں, کوئی چیز نہیں روک سکتی. اور ظاہر ہے the woman that should inspire everybody is محترمہ بینظیر بھٹو. اور انتہائی انسپائرنگ باتیں مسٹر نورل ہدا شاہ نے کی ہے. انہوں نے مجھے ہمیشہ انسپائر کیا. میں ان کے ڈرامے بڑے شوق سے دیکھتا تھا. جب انہوں نے ڈرامے لکھنا بند کیا تو میں نے ڈرامے دیکھنا بھی بند کر دیا. بڑی خوبصورتی سے انہوں نے جو بس کو تشبیہ دی گھروں سے اور سفوکیشن وہاں ہوتی ہے. اور فتارہ کی جو پریزنٹیشن تھی ٹیکنیکل تھی، لیکن ریسرچ بہت اہمیت رکھتا ہے، تعلیم بڑی اہمیت رکھتی ہے. ان کی جو ریسرچ ہے اور سملر 2-3 اور ریسرچ ہیں، یہ فاؤنڈیشن ہے کراچی کا ٹرانسپورٹ پلان کا. اور اس وقت جو گرین لائن، ریڈ لائن، یہ ساری چیزیں جو بن رہی ہے، اس میں یہ سارے انپٹس ہیں. تو بہت یوں ہے. ہم یقیناً سب انسپائر ہوئے ہیں، اور یہی مقصد ہوتا ہے اس قسم کے فنکشنز کا. لیکن یہ کافی نہیں ہونا چاہیے. سیمینار اٹینڈ کر کے ہم اپنی قسمت نہیں بدل سکتے. جدوجہد کرنی ہوگی. فریاد کر کے حق نہیں مانگا جاتا، نہ حاصل کیا جاتا ہے. بغاوت کرنی ہوتی ہے. بغاوت کا مطلب نہیں ہے کہ بسیں جلائیں اور پتھر ماریں. اگر آپ جو کنونشنز ہیں، جو سوچ ہے روایتی، اس کو کویسچن کرتے ہیں، توڑتے ہیں، وہ بھی بغاوت ہے. اور ہمیں یہ جو باتیں جس نورالہدیٰ شاہ نے کہی ہے، بنیادی طور پہ یہی ہے کہ ہمیں جو روایتی سوچ ہے اسے توڑنا ہے، کویسچن کرنا ہے، چیلنج کرنا ہے. تو آئیے بغاوت کریں. شکریہ.